Hi, I'm Dana, and I got my autism diagnosis 5 years ago, and I still regularly have moments that I'm like, oh, that's a stim. Oh, that's a thing that I do because I'm autistic. Like, that's a sensory thing. And every single time, it takes me a little bit by surprise. I'm just like, I thought this was my personality, me being the most quirky, fun little princess in the world, but it's not. It's an autism thing. And as much as every time I am like, oh, I thought that was my personality, it's fine. It is my personality. It's just that quite a big chunk of my personality is influenced by the fact that I'm autistic. So I thought I'd share some of the things that more recently I've been like, oh, that's a stim. And there's probably going to be some that I've mentioned in past videos, but these are ones that I've had some degree of like a recent realisation with. So let's get into it. The first one that I want to bring up is one that I haven't done in a very, very, very long time because I got absolutely trained out of it because my parents hated it. But it was when I was watching Hereditary that I was like, oh shit. Because the little tongue click thing that the girl does it, just the in the corner of the room, it didn't scare me because that was me as a child. I was that bitch. I was the kid that was just walking around school, walking around my house, walking around wherever I was, just... And like I say, I got absolutely trained out of it because everyone around me hated it and got really annoyed by it. So I have not done that in like probably over 15 years, if not longer. But that was like my big thing as a kid. That was the thing that I got shouted at for all the time. It was the way that like I annoyed people the most, and everyone thought that I was doing it to be annoying. But I didn't even like think about doing it. It's a good mouthfeel, it's a good mouth sound. It was just the thing that I did and it felt good. I liked it. I didn't really pay that much attention to it until people were like, stop doing that. The other one that really annoyed people, and that I'm pretty sure I have mentioned before, is that I bounce my leg constantly. I have to really, really remind myself to not do it in videos because otherwise either me or the camera are like jiggling and shaking up and down. But 99% of the time, if I'm just sat somewhere, if I'm going somewhere, if I'm just existing in the world sat down, I'm bouncing my leg. And for the longest time, I thought it was just an anxiety thing. Like, I feel like it is pretty common that people bounce their leg when they're anxious, when they're nervous. But it's just something that I do if I'm sitting. Like, if I'm sitting, I'm bouncing my leg. I really struggle. See, that's the thing, I'm not. If I'm sat comfortably, if I'm like at a friend's house, at my own house, and I've got like my legs up on the seat, I'm fine. If my legs have to be down, if I'm sat like in a hospital, on a train, on a bus, whatever like that, if I have to sit like a person, my leg bounces. But I also know exactly where it came from, and it's a little bit embarrassing and a little bit ugh. But I feel like it's one of the things that like people who get it will like get it, and the people that don't will be like, what? But it was back in the day when I was first becoming a Twilight fan, and fucking Taylor Lautner talked about having restless leg syndrome, and I was like, what's he? I don't get it. And I like bounced my leg to be like, is that what it is? Is that what he's doing? And obviously he's not. He had restless leg syndrome. It's a completely different thing. I'm not trying to say like he just decided to do it, but I decided to just give it a little go to see what it's like because I'd watched this interview and I was like, oh, it's good. Oh, it's good. It's just, it makes it so much easier for me to sit like a person. I want to pull my legs up. I want to like, right now I'm sat with my legs crossed and that's the best way for me to sit. That's how I'm most comfortable. But like, I want my legs up. If I can't do that, bouncing my leg, I just feel that bit more grounded and that bit more okay. And I feel like that's what a lot of stims are. It's not necessarily that I need to be like super grounded or really need to like comfort myself. It's just a little something to make me feel a bit more okay, you know? It's not that I don't feel okay, it's just that I can feel more okay if I do the thing. One that I realised really recently, and that like kind of annoyed me, is I am an absolute chronic hand wiper. Every pair of fucking pants that I own at some point will get stains on the tops of the thighs from me just wiping my hands on it constantly. And sometimes it's just the sensory thing of like my hands feel a little bit bitty, a little bit sticky, like there's a little bit something on them, a little bit damp. My hands just don't feel right, so they get wiped. And sometimes, quite often, it's just the fact of like, I really like wearing very textured trousers. Like you've seen the patchwork ones that, patchwork? Is that the word? The ones that are lots of patches sewn together that I've worn in like a whole bunch of videos that when I've done vlogs and stuff that you've seen. I've got a pair of corduroys that I got recently. I love the texture of corduroy. And I know that's one of the TISM like yes or no's, like you love it or you hate it, and I love it. So as well as like the sensory thing of gotta get things off my hands all the time, I also really just like the way that my trousers feel. I like the way that the fabric feels on my skin. I like the way that it feels on my legs, on my hands, like it's a nice texture, it's a nice vibe. But like I constantly, like I feel like I must do it like 10 times an hour. I just forever am rubbing my hands on the tops of my thighs, and it's probably like I feel like I'm gonna wear 3 pants, like for real, especially the corduroy ones. And to be fair, this wasn't on my list, but that does feel like it's another stim that I don't really like think about. Like I don't think about most of these on the regular because I am just living my life as a person, you know? It's only when I sit down and I'm like, I need a video topic, that I'm like, think about every autistic thing that you do. Like I don't just think about that stuff in my day-to-day life, you know? But the fabrics that I choose to buy, and like specifically the clothing that I choose to buy, is definitely very like stim worthy clothing, you know? Like for Comic-Con this past weekend I wore my Lord of the Rings jumper, and my favourite thing about it is that it's got like Bilbo's door on the front, and when you open it, Bilbo and Gandalf are inside, so it's got a little popper on it so it doesn't just stay open, and being able to just constantly like unpopper and repopper it is like the best stim in the world. But so often it is just like I have a lot of knitted and like really nice textured jumpers, I have a lot of my textured trousers, I like I have a lot of textured tops for that matter. I just wear like under t-shirts and stuff, and even through the t-shirt I can just feel the texture, and like that's a really big thing for me. I really like sort of, I suppose my outfits being sort of like a built-in tactile board for me to textile, just a very like sensory stimmy little board for me to like pick at all day is how I want my outfits to be, and it just works out really well for me. I think I look cool, I think I feel good. I mean, I do feel good. I think I look pretty decent, and like it just works for me, you know? I feel like it's a really good form of self-expression combined with like a good sensory environment for me to exist within. Like this next one, I was watching Wayne's World the other night, and there's that bit when he's in bed with Tia Carrera and he's doing camera 1, camera 2, camera 1, camera 2, and it always makes me laugh, and every single time it reminds me of when I was a kid. And so my bed was over in the corner, and all along the top of the room I had shelves with China dolls on it, and I'd like choose the China doll that I was looking at, and they all had names. Most of them were Charlotte, to be fair, but like I'd look at her and I'd be like, from that one, from that one, from that one, and from that one, and I'd do that for like hours before I went to sleep sometimes. Like it wasn't a super regular thing, but every now and again I'd just remember as a kid that like I can change the perspective of how I'm seeing things if I close one eye and then close the other, and close one eye and close the other. And it was just like a little game that I'd sometimes play with myself, where I'd like focus on one thing and be like, camera 1, camera 2. And I didn't think of it as camera 1 and camera 2, but I was very like, that one and that one, that one and that one, ooh. And like I especially like putting things really close and then doing it so that it like felt like it was moving more. Like it just felt like my own little like magic trick that I could do for myself, and like a very visual sensory stimmy type of thing. And I thought for like a good amount of time after my diagnosis that I'm not really like a visual stimulation type of autistic. I don't really stim via visual things, because a lot of like, you know, like you get the little glass things where you like turn it over and the sand floats to the bottom, or the glitter jars that people are making with like mica and glitter and things. Like I think they look very pretty, but I know that like if I made one I'd be like, oh yeah, pretty, and put it on the side and not fucking touch it again, you know? Like it just doesn't do anything for me. So I thought I wasn't like a visual stim type of person, but as a child I had loads of lava lamps. I probably had like 6 or 7 lava lamps at one point just around my room, because I just liked watching them. I've always been like a lamp person. I don't like the big light. I don't like having like too much light in a room, which I love filming YouTube videos, this is great, but so being able to combine like the low light and like atmospheric lighting as well as having something to look at that is just random, you know? Like I can try and predict it and be like, oh, I think that bubble's gonna go there and that bubble's gonna split and whatever else, but like it's just an incredibly relaxing, nice like little stim thing to watch. And like it does, I mean with my general vibe I feel like I'd suit a lava lamp or two anyway, but especially just having like thought about them recently and the ones I had as a kid, I really want a lava lamp. I really enjoy watching lava lamps. I think they're like the prettiest fucking thing in the world, and especially as a kid I was just obsessed with them. I would spend hours and hours and hours watching lava lamps. My parents thought I was weird for it, but they also kind of supported it and bought them for me, so at least there's that. My absolute favourite one was like a rectangular shaped one, but then the bottles were like wavy. I don't know if this hand motion helps at all. It was like a double one, and there were, yeah. Anyway, I loved that because each of them would do something a little bit different. Just really good visual stim. And to be fair, it might just be like a little aesthetic thing, but but I have recently been seeing the snow globes on TikTok that have like a little street lamp inside them, and when you shake them and then turn it on, it looks like snow. And like I can imagine really, really enjoying that. Actually, I really want one. I should just buy myself one, because like some of my favourite memories from like childhood Christmas and winters was just sitting in my bedroom, because I had a street lamp like right outside my bedroom. I had just watched the snow or the rain. I really loved that. And to be fair, I do have a street lamp like right outside my bedroom now, so if we get any snow this year, I'll be in luck. But like there's a lot of like weird visual things that I never thought of as stims, and the more that I've thought about it, the more I'm like, that's what I was using it for though. Like when I was just sitting there and staring at it and being like, wow, pretty. Like other people also thought it was pretty, but they weren't staring at it for hours and hours and hours, and I was definitely using it as a visual stim. And the final one that I want to bring up, because I do feel like I've touched on it before, because I've touched on the fact that I've used a lot of like sour and fizzy sweets as like a stim and like a mouth flavour stuff happening in there kind of stim. But we've talked about this before, I only drink Pepsi. It's terrible. I need to buy something and figure out a way that I'm going to start actually drinking actual water, because I don't remember the last time water passed my lips. I drink Pepsi Max Cherry, and it's the thing of like, I can be really, really thirsty and I just don't care to drink anything. I don't want anything in my mouth. Like water isn't it doesn't feel good, it doesn't taste good, I don't like it. So often it's really irony, and like I know that it's so like immature and whatever else to have an issue with water, but like I just genuinely like really strongly dislike water, and I do want to find a way to drink more water, because I do understand that like my body is predominantly made up of water and being hydrated is really good for you, but I'm not there. I'm drinking only Pepsi, and so much of it is the way it feels, and like the flavour is so much like, see, that's where I used to just drink Pepsi Max, because that had like a flavour and it made my mouth feel a certain way, and it was like, it just hit a certain way, you know, it was just right. And then after I'd been to America, I started drinking root beer while we were in the US, because Pepsi just didn't taste the same, it just wasn't the same, it wasn't right. So I switched to root beer, and then when we came back I was like, thank God, Pepsi. And it didn't hit right, it wasn't right. So I switched to cherry Pepsi, and that hit right. Just the flavour explodes in my mouth, and all the bubbles and the coldness of it, and just like the way it feels makes me feel like I'm floating. It just makes me feel so good every single time I have a sip of Pepsi. I know it's a bit over dramatic and like whatever, but I love it. Like it just, every single time I drink it, it hits and it feels good and I enjoy it, you know? And especially thinking back on my childhood, my parents were very like, you're not being a fizzy drink drinker. And I do think that is probably like a small part of why I exclusively drink fizzy drinks now, don't get me wrong. But on Saturdays when Charmed was about to come on the telly, my dad would give me the car keys. I'd run out to the car and I'd get us all a can of Diet Coke, and it'd be freezing because it's been in the car. And like, just the memory of like sitting down and the fucking, I am the sun and the air, and I'd crack open my Diet Coke and take the first tiny little sip, and it'd be all bubbly and cold, and it was just the best, you know? And I'd like sit there taking like the tiniest little sips and feeling all the bubbles, and it was just, I've always just really loved fizzy drinks, like to a point that like other people, you know, like even when I've met other people like, I love sodas and whatever, like not like I do. And like, I don't want to gatekeep, it's not like in any way shitty, it's just that like their reaction to getting a fizzy drink is not the same as mine, you know? I'm like very, also though, people feel things internally or whatever, it doesn't actually matter, but I just love fizzy drinks. I adore them, and it's so bad for me. I know it's ruining my body and my teeth and whatever else, but I love them. I love them so much. And that was the last little point that I wanted to talk about. I'm also, I hate when I get to the point in videos where I start just like losing the ability to talk, and the words that I want don't come out, and I just start stuttering and stumbling, and it's really frustrating. But I think that's just also another part of being autistic. Like, I've used up the words, just be done, bitch. So I'm gonna be done, bitch. You can like and subscribe here if you would like to. Liking this video helps me in the algorithm, I do believe, and I mostly just enjoy getting subscribers. I just think it's really fun. I spent like 6 years with exactly 52 subscribers, so anytime I gain a new one, it's still very exciting for me. You can also follow me over on Instagram or TikTok, where I post sometimes on Instagram. I'm gonna get back to posting really regularly on TikTok, I swear, like it's gonna be a thing for me. I am struggling with energy and actually getting things done and everything at the minute, but we are nearly halfway through November. So for my Patreons, I am going to put up a Patreon post soon asking y'all for your addresses if you're comfortable with sharing. I also, if you're living like in America or somewhere else, I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford to do so. I'm sorry, I feel really mean, but I only have so much money. But I would like to send like at least a handful of you a little Christmas card and a little thank you, like a physical thing, you know. I think that'd be really nice. I'd really like to do that. So that post is going to be going up on Patreon soon, and if you wanted to join over on Patreon and be involved in that, you can do. I've tried to keep it cheap, you know, like there's higher tiers that you can go for to give me more money if you want to, but like, you don't have to give me any money at all. Frankly, you don't have to join it in the slightest. And if you wanted to just give me money one time instead of paying monthly, you can also go over to Ko-fi. But there is no pressure to. You do not have to. The point of this content and the point of posting on YouTube is that I do it for free and you don't have to pay me, you know? It's all good. Do you. Buy what you want to buy with your money. It's absolutely fine. Oh my God, I'm going to shut up and go now. Whoever you are and wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year. And I will see you again in a couple of days.